Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
What a flex from Netflix. I mean, to add nearly 19 million subscribers, jack up prices, and then be like, we're out.
Exactly. Peace. And we're leading the Oscar nominations, by the way. So that,
exactly. What a week they've had.
Welcome to the Ankler Podcast. This is Sean McNulty of the Wake Up Newsletter here at the Ankler here in New York City on Thursday, January 23rd. I'm joined in Los Angeles by Elaine Lowe and Richard Rushfield in Park City, Utah. Richard, how are the slopes? Is the powder any good this year? We need a ski report.
It's crunchy today.
Crunchy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I heard a skier say that on the show. So I know.
Listen, Richard, you sold it, buddy. So listen, I'll believe you on that.
But the word is it's crunchy up there. It was actually they were actually on strike. The lift people were on strike. So the skiers, see online, there's lots of videos of the skiers waiting for 3 hours to get up on a lift there. So it's the skiers are very angry in our midst here.
Elaine, fire up Strike Guys. We have a hot tip here. So let's get it back up.
Strike
going
Guys
again.
in Park City. All right.
There you go. Elaine's on it. But a lot going on this week. We'll get into Netflix's big combo of a mic drop of Q4 subscriber news, along with catching the old great streaming price hike train. And Ashley Collins will be joining us in a little bit to fill us in on the latest new way that Hollywood is looking to get free work from writers. Always with the creativity, Elaine, there, Hollywood and the writing community. But we are recording here on Oscar nominations day, and that can mean only one thing. Richard is in his tuxedo t-shirt. No, he's not.
Black and white. It's close.
Yeah, you do black and white. You got your Sundance laminate.
No, it is. It's a day to celebrate, as our guest Katie Rich could tell you, because Oscar decided to confirm my predictions and put me in first.
Yes.
In first place of the pundits. So
Waving the I told you so flag there, Richard.
Richard's very, Help you buy your t-shirt to Sundance.
9 out of 10 is all I'll have to say.
We're going to make you a hat for this.
All right. You're in charge of that, Elaine. But yes, as Richard alluded, our awards genius here in-house, Katie Rich, is joining us today in an equally snowy environment, but minus the skiing and our free swag. Katie, how you doing?
I'm good. I was going to, if you want me to seg right into it, you mentioned a Netflix mic drop, and I thought you were going to mention their Oscar nominations haul, but you were just talking about their earnings.
Third mic. We need more mics.
They have so much to brag about this year. It's not a bad week to be Ted Sarandos at all.
Definitely, that's what Ted Sarandos keeps telling people, so that's true. But Katie, Elaine and I have a lot of questions, mostly about what happened to Challengers and Deadpool and Wolverine, but maybe we'll put a pin in that.
Outraged. Katie,
Elaine is outraged.
What happened?
I tried so hard, man. I pushed that Challengers ball up the hill as best I could, and it was maybe just too fun, and came out in the spring.
There's huge anti-tennis sentiment.
Is that it? Okay, all right.
When do I start the write-in campaign? Justice for Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor.
Yeah,
not even a score nomination? Come on.
That score will live forever.
They will never give a tennis movie a chance. There will never be a tennis nominee. I'm sorry.
Wow. Right. Yeah, Justice for Challengers, also queer. Luca Guadagnino films 0 for 2 at the Oscars this year. So I think there's many factors at play other than Luca Guadagnino, but one of the people left on the sidelines today.
Yeah, A24 certainly not, though. That's for sure.
No,
but,
they did pretty well for themselves.
Very nice across a few categories. But Richard, yes, your substance belief paid off, right?
Yeah,
Katie,
Seemed to me I remember coming on this podcast right after Toronto Film Festival.
I am granting you this one, Richard. Yes, you came after Toronto and you were proclaiming.
There were many eye rolls and sniffs and how could this be? And here we are.
Check the tape on that, but all right.
Yeah, The Substance has the power that a couple of Oscar movies in recent years, Everything Everywhere All at Once, really notably, but also like Triangle of Sadness, where it's a movie that's kind of so bold and out there that people are like, you gotta see this. Like, whether or not it's your thing, you have to just see it for yourself. And I think Demi Moore's Golden Globe speech a couple weeks ago certainly didn't hurt. Like, to me, she's still in the pole position to win Best Actress. And, someone like Coralie Farja getting that Best Director nomination. The Best Director branch is so international, even more than the rest of the Academy, which is pretty international. They love their auteurs, like the director of Triangle of Sadness, Ruben Östlund, or Jonathan Glazer last year. And it made perfect sense for her to take that spot in there next to your James Mangolds of the world.
Right.
And you want to talk about a story that Academy members can get behind, the story of an aging actor who Hollywood no longer has a place for. Like, I think that resonates with more than a couple members of the Academy.
A certain contingent of the voting body there. But yeah, even The Apprentice got some love. Okay, is this a surprise, Katie? Or, I mean, Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong?
Yeah,
that caught my eye. I don't know.
I had said for ages that I thought Sebastian Stan would cancel himself out because he had The Apprentice and A Different Man.
And he won
the Golden Globe for A Different Man. And so that's the movie of the two of them that I like a lot. And I was really rooting for.
It was a better performance.
And so I had, as the Best Actor nominees were being announced, I kind of realized that alphabetically we had passed Daniel Craig, so he wasn't going to get in for Queer. And I was like, okay, who's left? And then they said Sebastian Stan, and I was so excited. Then they said The Apprentice, and I was like, okay. I mean, I was just talking to Richard about this on the Substack Live we did, but there was this kind of feeling that the Oscars really wanted to stay out of politics this year. But I do think being past the inauguration with Trump back in power, there might be more people who are like, all right, if I'm going to have to watch this guy, maybe I'll watch this movie that like takes him down and explores how he got to be this way. And he is really good playing Trump in The Apprentice. So, I don't know if the sitting president has tried to attack this movie yet again, but I'm sure he will. So it'll be interesting to watch these companies that may want to do business with the Trump administration also attending an award ceremony that's going to celebrate The Apprentice.
That's very true. Yeah, I'm sure he'll get right on top of it, Katie. He's had a busy week, so a lot going on there.
What better does he have to do than to settle scores with independent filmmakers?
Yeah, exactly right. But I guess, Netflix is having quite a week. Emilia Perez is leading the way. That's the headline here, I think. Katie, is that accurate to say?
Oh, yeah, 13 nominations. The record is 14, so it's one shy, but, it got basically everything it possibly could have, including 2 song nominations. R.I.P. to Selena Gomez's Oscar chances. She'll have another chance. She's kind of the one thing that it didn't make it in for. And then right behind it are The Brutalist and Wicked, which tied for 10 nominations apiece, which is still pretty dang good.
Yeah. Richard, anything surprise you outside of your your predictions coming true, which was not surprising, but what stands out for you here?
I mean, the one of my predictions that didn't make it was A Real Pain. I was sorry to see it not make it. And the biggest snub in my book for looking at that is the damn doc branch, which consistently year in year out punishes films that get any kind of public audience or reception, and left out Will and Harper this year as a result of people actually liking it. So
yeah. Perish the thought.
There's a couple of acting snubs that, you can use the word snub if you want to. But I did have some hopes for Danielle Deadwyler in The Piano Lesson, especially early in the season.
Yeah. She
kind of famously didn't get nominated for Till a couple years ago. So this kind of felt like a makeup opportunity. But, Netflix, for all their success with Emilia Perez, they had movies like The Piano Lesson or His Three Daughters or Will and Harper that just didn't manage to get across the finish line. So Danielle Deadwyler is an incredible actress. She'll get there eventually. But I think there's a larger thing where the trend is that so many of the acting nominees come from Best Picture nominees, which isn't always the case. And here's a fun fact for you all. This year, all 5 Best Actress nominees are from Best Picture nominees. And would you like to guess how long it's been since that happened? It's happened before.
Pop quiz.
All right. Yeah, I love a pop quiz.
I love a pop quiz. Yeah. I'm going to say 12 years since that's happened.
All right. Any other guesses?
I'm going to go 14.
Okay, Richard?
I'll say back in the 1980s.
It's very close. 1977 is the last time that happened. The year that Diane
That's a really
Keaton.
long time.
I know.
Richard was at those Oscars, I think, actually.
Yeah, the historical trend is that Best Picture movies are boy movies. It kind of happens over and over again. So, now we have 10, so there's more opportunities. There's a lot of factors there. But yeah, good for all these actresses.
All right, fair enough. But I will say, Hollywood pulled through. Wicked is in the mix, so we have people will watch the show, everybody. So we have
a crowd pleaser in there.
And Dune is also made on the Best Picture list of 10 for 10. Only 2 studio movies on that list. Those are the 2. But I will say, a very good spread of indie film arms here with significant amount of nominations among them all, between Neon, A24, Mubi, Searchlight, Focus, and Sony Pictures Classics coming through there too. That's pretty good. And they all have not just one, they all have multiple.
What's fascinating is there's no studio has multiple Best Picture nominees. It's completely spread among all of the nominees, which again, I'm not sure when the last time that happened was. But
10 studios or 10 movies.
If Focus had kept the Substance, they could have had to.
Yes, true. That's true.
But Universal did pretty well overall, right? When you combine their studios between Focus and Universal.
Focus right?
Yes, exactly. And Searchlight and Disney. Searchlight did well with A Real Pain and A Complete Unknown, and then they've got animated movies. So yes, there's plenty of different studios have things to boast about.
Yeah, and even Amazon MGM has a few with Nickel Boys in there as well, so they're in the mix.
Yes, I don't know if they got anything other than Nickel Boys, but
right,
yes,
but
Nickel Boys making
no Challengers, right? That was the Challenger Studios.
But no, Nickel Boys making it into Best Picture was a huge triumph. I think that movie is a masterpiece, and it seemed like something that could be too divisive for the Academy to rally around. So thrilled by that nomination.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of Lionsgate, who doesn't really play in this milieu, and former Best Picture winner Apple is certainly not in the mix this year, and Paramount had just kind of out. They September 5th got a screenplay nom.
Yeah, Gladiator 2 got costume, which of all of the things I thought would get nominated from Gladiator 2, didn't see that coming, but good for them.
Right. It's something, yeah. I should say, certain years it gets, I think more often than not, it feels like it's concentrated a lot, Katie, and this is a really wide amount of players this year.
I think Netflix has had 2 Best Picture nominees for several of the last couple of years. So this is unusual for it to be spread this much.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other parting thoughts there? I know you're going to be recapping all the categories on your Prestige Junkie podcast there, Katie, but what's ahead for the next month here? What are we in store for?
They canceled the nominees luncheon and donated money to the wildfire relief basically as a result. But I think a lot of stuff is still going to be happening around that weekend in February, around February 8th. So get ready to gear up. And then Critics' Choice Awards are coming around then, and then SAG Awards after that. So, I mean, it feels to me, and, the people who are in LA can tell me that, the award season hubbub is gearing back up as much as it can. I think probably still impacted by the fires in some ways, but get ready to see everybody back out there on the campaign trail.
All right, Richard, you ready for invites, Richard?
I have to see if I can still fit into my tuxedo this year.
It may be that tuxedo T-shirt he will be wearing this year. So yeah. But yeah, just search for Prestige Junkie wherever you listen to your podcasts, and that episode will be up there as well to dive into all of the minutia that you want to know about all the categories at the Oscars. But it is the start of Sundance. Before we let you go there, Katie, as Variety always says, it's never too soon to talk about next year's Oscars. Anything
Absolutely
Sundance, Sundance buzz catching you? You'll be keeping an eye on this weekend as the films start to roll out?
This is a little bit of a cheat because it's already got A24 as a distributor and it's coming out in March. But Opus is very intriguing to me with Ayo Edebiri and John Malkovich. Exactly. So there's a trailer out for that. It looks very intriguing. I mean, there's some really incredible looking documentaries, kind of as usual. Like I think The Stringer is kind of this mystery photographer story that I don't know anyone who's actually managed to see it yet. And yeah, like you start looking at just like actors and you're like, oh, I want to see Olivia Colman and John Lithgow in this movie. But as Richard's going to be able to tell us, like sometimes you can have all the best actors in the world and your movie is nothing. So in a couple days, we'll know a lot more.
That has happened at Sundance on occasion, Katie, and that's not unheard of. Richard, anything on your radar for the weekend you'll be out there checking out?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that sort of jumps out is a potential contender is this Kiss of the Spider Woman with J-Lo that's coming.
Okay, yeah.
That's kind of directed by Bill Condon, who's past Oscar winner. So that is my waiter last night at the Irish pub that I go to before the festival every year, before it gets crowded, said, so you hear J-Lo's coming. So that was what he's excited about. Yeah.
Spread the news. All right. Well, Katie, thanks for making time for us on a very busy day for you. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Well, Elaine, there's no substitution for an Obama mic drop there at Netflix before taking your subscriber counts out of public view. Of course, Netflix added 18.9 million subscribers globally in the last 3 months of 2024. It's the biggest quarter of subscriber growth ever. That's a good 3 million or so above its previous record, which was the first quarter of 2020, essentially with the onset of COVID. Netflix is now essentially taking its subscriber count and going home. No more info for people like me. No more subscriber counts. No more ARPU. They're taking ARPU, Elaine. I mean, Netflix, have you no heart?
What a flex from Netflix. I mean, to add nearly 19 million subscribers, jack up prices, and then be like, we're out.
Exactly. Peace. And we lead the Oscar and Oscar nominations, by the way. So
exactly. What a week they've had. I mean, it really shows how much pricing power they have, too, to jack up prices this much, too. What is it, $25 a month for as I believe you call it, the bougie tier?
The bougie tier, yeah. The Richard Rushfield tier is $25 a month. So, yes, exactly.
I mean, when you have 300 million households, like, you can do whatever you want. Like,
Yeah.
you become the must-have service, and a significant slice of the world has said they find you valuable, and that's not changing because of a couple dollars a month. So.
Yeah, they've just far and away clocked that lead now. And I mean, they already gained what? It was something like 41 million subscribers in 2024. So for this to be on top of that annual gain is really saying something.
The U.S. number that is really mind-blowing, I mean, I know the global numbers kind of got the attention, but Netflix added 4.8 million subscribers in the U.S. and Canada in Q4 alone. That's its biggest quarterly growth number in in basically Netflix history. For some context, Elaine, Netflix added almost as many subscribers in the last 3 months of 2024 than it did in the 6-month period on the onset of COVID.
Wow.
And this is 2024. This is like, it's not like, people are like, oh, what's Netflix? Like, it's like, this is, like,
it's this new service.
No one's stuck in their houses and you still added almost 5 million subscribers where everybody else I did the breakdown over 2-year periods. Max has lost, I think, 1 million subscribers. Disney, if you take out the charter thing, was like 2 million subscribers. I mean, Peacock has been growing. But
now, did they indicate in the call what accounts for that massive growth?
Well, I mean, Richard, you alluded to this in your piece today, in your column today, but, obviously they had the NFL games and they had the big Mike Tyson fight, but they were like, well, they didn't give an exact color because they just don't do that, Elaine. But, they were like, well, but they also had Squid Game and they also had Carry On. They also had, again, they're still delivering the hits.
And just like if I've seen people say, well, they had a couple stunts and just get
right.
It's like, yeah, stunts. That's what you're supposed to do. You're entertainment.
Exactly.
You're supposed to grab attention. Yeah.
This isn't like we're an accounting firm and we just got a couple extra people because we bribed people at Burger King to come here. Like, where's everyone else's stunts?
Yeah, I mean, Peacock could have had a 58-year-old boxing fight. There's no, there's no rule against this stuff.
At this age, they keep taking chances and doing stunts and trying things that people say are ridiculous and terrible and get mad at them for. But they say, okay, let's take a chance on that.
They could have a Tom Brady roast, yeah.
To that point, how much does live account for that growth, do you think? Because I think it was seen as sort of like a one-off thing, right? And outside of WWE, there really isn't anything that's occurring with regularity in a live context. But you have these 2 massive NFL games. You have the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight. I mean, like, do you think that's actually something that can perpetuate that growth?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're looking at it as this like their subscriber acquisition events, Elaine. So it's not like, oh, the event is what is driving all the usage, but it's getting people in the door. And again, Netflix they want to be talked about. And what do these events do? They achieve just that. And to Richard's point, the streamers, they have engagement, other streamers, they have things going on, but they're not creating these, they don't have Tom Brady roasts or hot dog eating contests, which again, Richard, some of these are a little whatever, call them what you will, but I remember them all. And I couldn't tell you what happened on Peacock in Q4. I really have no, oh my God, they probably had some things that, outside of some movies coming to the service and, streaming NFL games and things like that. But, there's nothing holding anybody else back, Richard, as you pointed out today. And it's exactly right. To complain about this but listen, they're not doing anything else anybody else can't do. You just said it's resources and that's it.
Okay, but my big question now is how much pressure does this put on every other publicly held entertainment company? When you look at the massive stock pop that Netflix got.
Oh, yeah.
Now that Netflix has sort of gone to like classic tech company, drop some big growth numbers, get a big pop on the market the next day. Like, does this put Wall Street back in a growth at all costs mindset, I wonder?
No,
or is this seen as a one-off? Because, like, do those institutional investors understand that Hollywood does not typically operate this way?
Well, Richard, as you wrote, it's like kind of boring. It's like, which is odd. Elaine, right. It used to be what it is, but now it's just treated like a shrug almost. It's like, Netflix just did what they do. And, it's like, but this is in any other world, Elaine, this would be like.
Yeah, but they got what, like a nearly 10% pop, right? On this
it's
news.
still up there. Yeah.
People started writing that. I was writing that they were running out of possible subscribers. I started writing that 5 years ago.
Oh, God. Weren't we all talking about the possible U.S. Canada saturation point like 5-7 years ago?
Right. Everybody has it already, Well, let's go into those numbers for a second. So Netflix has about 90 million subscribers in U.S. and Canada. They don't break out the Canadian number, but let's figure that's about, say, 78 million subscribers in the U.S., all right? That's not even counting extra members that people can add on to accounts. So there could be even more people who, have Netflix. So right now, about, let's just say 78, 80 million Americans have Netflix, and right now about 65 million have ESPN and CNN. That's a good, 15 million reach. It's like, yeah, this has inverted everybody. This is way past that. Selena, you and I were slacking with a colleague this week that, Netflix was the alternative to cable. I'm like, it isn't now. This is it. This is what every American has. They have Netflix. They don't have cable. So when they have these events, it's like, yeah, everybody can access it. Where if you have the college football championship on ESPN, I'm like, I can't watch that. I'm like, people start asking questions, Richard, am I better off being on Netflix or am I better off being on a linear TV thing? And before there was a conversation, and now it's like, you just get more reach with Netflix. So, they're at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this does is, to the extent that traditional companies were already feeling this way, it increases their sense that, like, we gotta get out of this business.
Exactly. So we need more SpinCos. We need to, exactly.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to compete. So we need to figure out something else.
Exactly right. So, enjoy your price hikes, everybody. $18 a month for the standard tier.
I will be paying $8 a month for the ad tier. Thank you very much. With my $1 a month bump.
Exactly right. Come over to the good side, which I think essentially that is what that's trying to do, Elaine. Like the number one priority, and there's the irony in all of this, Richard, Elaine, they're trying to become an advertising company. That's really what this whole thing is.
The thing that we still don't have a ton of information about.
Zero. I mean, really, there's still no numbers out there about that. So the great irony of Netflix, the ad-free haven has now become the big advertising business in Hollywood. So anyway, I break down more numbers there in the Wake Up for anybody who wants to dive into the Q4 numbers, as well as the latest WWE numbers. I know, Elaine, you're always asking me about how's Raw doing. So I broke that down for you this week over at theankler.com. And Richard, I'm told you have a very chocolate related event to get to at Sundance. So I think we're going to say it to you as well.
The Deep Chocolate Experience is coming up. So I need from the people at World of Hyatt are presenting a special chocolate tribute to the festival.
Well, we can't keep you from that, Richard.
Richard should have been invitee number one, I hope, on that list. I mean, exactly. So coming up next, Ashley Collins will explain all about the new, quote, if-come deals that Hollywood is making with the writing community that are definitely causing a lot of chatter among the writer class. Elaine, you love doing free work, right? That's fine.
Who doesn't love doing free work,
Who doesn't
John?
love free work in Hollywood? Exactly. So we'll be back in a moment.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Hi, I'm Ashley Collins, and I write the Dealmakers newsletter for The Ankler. Dealmakers guides readers through the intricate workings of lawyers, agents, and bankers, with insights exclusive to The Ankler covering the fast-changing state of deals, film finance, M&A, and the new frontier of AI law. I also interview some of the biggest names behind the industry's headlines, the people moving the entertainment industry forward, one DocuSign at a time. Dealmakers comes out every other Tuesday as part of a paid subscription to The Ankler. So please join me by subscribing today at theankler.com.
All right, Ashley Collins joins us now to share some great insights from her latest Dealmakers column at The Ankler. Ashley, always great to see you.
Good to see you guys too.
So explain to us, what is this, quote, new if-come deals in Hollywood? What's going on?
Yeah, so if-comes have been around forever, but generally they were used for up-and-comers or particularly risky pitches. And essentially it's a writer has an idea and either the studio or a production company says, if we can sell it, here's how much money you'll get, here's your deal. So they hammer out the terms of the deal in advance, but the writer actually only gets money if the project sells. And sometimes it'll go the other way. A studio will approach a writer and say, hey, we have an idea for this thing, and the rest continues. But now, because of, our increasingly risk averse and, less
cost sensitive studio
cost
system
sensitive
here?
is a nice way to say cheap.
Every euphemism for we're cutting budgets.
Yeah.
So now they're like all if-come deals, or they're mostly if-come deals is what it sounds like you're hearing.
It's happening a lot. There are still guarantees happening, right? It's not like fully across the board, but from what I'm hearing, for a big chunk of writers, this is now the default starting point at some of the studios and a lot of the smaller production companies.
Even very high profile showrunners and writers, it sounds like.
Yeah, how far up is this kind of going?
Somebody told me that they had a client that had already run 2 shows that they started with an IFCOM.
Wow.
And she was like, no, thanks.
Right.
Yeah, you'd think the 2 shows would be proof of concept enough, right?
You'd think I have a track record here. Yeah.
They did end up giving her a guarantee, or her client a guarantee. I don't actually know who the client was, but they had the fact that they started with an IFCOM was like really shocking to this person.
Yes, if you're not Sean Ryan or Chuck Lorre or something, it's a very steep cliff at this point, it seems like. But just to clarify here, so if I'm a writer, I have a pitch, I say I go to Warner Brothers Television Studio, find reputable firm in the history of Hollywood. And in the past, WBTV would give me a check if they wanted my idea, and then they would try to sell that show to Peacock, Netflix, Max. They bring it around town, and if they sold that show, then I would get a bigger check and I would go write the series. But now that first check is not coming in the door, and I'm only getting paid if they make that sale to the Peacock, the Netflix, and so forth, is what essentially kind of the differential here. So the writer's doing a lot more really free work. And it's not just, hey, here's my idea. And they say, okay, great. It's like, a free option is a term that was in your piece. And, we're going to go out and sell it. But they're like, oh, can you do X, Y, and Z to get this into shape, right, Ashley? Is that just like that stage of the, hey, here's my idea, do you like it? There's more to the story here.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, is that historically these had been just a pitch. Hey, here's a pitch. If you like it, maybe we'll enter into an IFCOM. Now, because it's hard to sell anything, they're needing things to be much further along in the process. And it's not just a pitch, it's revising a pitch, taking rounds of notes, sometimes doing outlines and fully working up characters and thinking through multiple series of a project. And so this ends up being a lot of work. And somebody described it as these companies outsourcing their development departments without paying for it.
Wow.
And because there's no real pilot season anymore, we're not just talking about a pilot script. We're talking about working up like a whole season Bible, right?
Yeah, in some cases.
Yeah, and it's not that, well, it is what it is, but this also worked for more for Hollywood agents, because essentially you're doing a bunch of deals on spec, because you have to set, IFCOM means like we all agree that if this happens, but that's a lot of rounds of negotiations and agents' time to get these deals in place that may never lead to a payday for them either.
Yeah, basically they're hammering out the terms of these deals in advance without knowing for sure whether or not they're ever going to come to fruition. And then another thing that somebody pointed out to me is that, say I'm a Sony TV and I agree to an IFCOM with a writer, and then I get a buyer who's interested, but that buyer's like, no. We're not going to pay $500,000 and then $75,000 an episode. How about $325,000?
Then you go back to redo the deal you already thought was done, and it ain't done.
Exactly. Sometimes they're finding themselves in a situation where after a buyer is interested, they're having to renegotiate the deal because the buyer isn't okay with the terms of the IFCOM.
What was so striking about your story, Ashley, is at one point you mentioned no one that you actually talked to could remember a single series that was actually greenlit from an IFCOM deal. So shouldn't that give the entire writer and agent community some pause?
Yeah, they were like, there has to have been one. Like, I remember this happening, but like, I can't tell you what it was.
Oh yeah, it was a friend of a friend. It happened to my sister's cousin.
Somebody said they thought It's Always Sunny might have been one, but
Oh my God. All right,
I like that it's lore, though.
I was going to say, that's back when I was an assistant in Hollywood. That's how far back we're going, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
and I actually don't think it was, because I did a deep dive and they actually shot a pilot first.
Yeah,
so that seems like not the same situation.
Definitely not the same deal. Yeah, that was the kicker of it.
This so plays into the theme that I've been hearing, which back in September, I'd written a story about development and the death of pilot season, right? And a showrunner I spoke to said that development is basically wage theft. So I'm very curious. You talked to the Guild about this, the Writers Guild, which strictly prohibits any kind of free written material, right? So like what kind of crosses the border here? Are we talking about like everything like a live pitch is fine, an outline is fine, a Bible is fine, just no actual script pages? What's the rule around this?
So oral pitches, totally fine. Working up a written pitch for yourself, not at the behest of a production company or studio, totally fine.
Right.
But if a studio hears your oral pitch and says, okay, great, we want to see X, Y, Z in writing, X, Y, and Z all have assigned prices under the guild. And so the guild's position is that if come or not, you have to be paying for these things if a writer is turning in written material.
Okay, but is anybody turning in pages on the DL?
Oh, everybody.
Okay. Well, that's nice to know.
It's crazy.
A lot of this is happening outside of the guild from what I'm hearing, and like not a great situation.
So not a lot of enforcement is what it sounds like is happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who want to work out there. It feels, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tough, right? I mean,
Is it basically we haven't worked in a while, so yeah, that's fine. I'll go ahead and mock up some pages for you.
and I'm coming off a strike land where I had no work at all for 6 months. You know, don't forget about that hole that a lot of
Right.
writers are in as well, right?
Yeah, everybody really wants to work. And there's, it's a double-edged sword. Like they feel like they should do this because they want their pitch to be as good as it possibly can so that they can sell it. But at the same time, like nobody wants to do free work.
Yeah. And as Elaine pointed out, it's not even paying off for most of this stuff either, which is the whole kicker to the whole the whole story. No one can remember one show that actually paid off in this matter. But yeah, fascinating read, Ashley. Really, I had not heard of these deals before, and it's a really great dive. I've talked to a lot of people around town. I highly recommend checking that out over at theankler.com. Ashley, always good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And if there are any writers who want to tell us about your experience, feel free to email us at podcasts@theankler.com or
just
email
drop Elaine a
Ashley
note.
and I.
Yeah, exactly. Elaine at theankler.com.
Yeah, and if you are one of the unicorns who
Please.
have become a series, please tell me.
Yes, tell us.
Reach out
We
to
would love
Elaine
to
or
know.
Ashley. So we love a good success story here at The Ankler. So please let us know that something actually paid off in this genre. So anyway, thanks again, Ashley. All right, Elaine, on the other side of the coin, the unscripted world had a bit of a shakeup today with news of NBCU unscripted head Corey Henson leaving the company. Francis Berwick is likely going to be taking the reins as well as heading up the one cable TV network left at Comcast after Spinco, that being Bravo, which I'm told has a reality show or two. But you had a bit of intel into this world this week. What's going on in the world of unscripted?
Yeah, the Corey news was a surprise to me, given how many shout outs she got from the reps
that in your
and
piece on
producers.
Monday, yeah.
So probably the number one unscripted exec at any studio or network who got a shout out was Corey Henson, who used to be over at Warner Brothers Discovery and then was at NBCU for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me tell you, the unscripted market it's a lot more chaotic than the scripted market, at least from my vantage point. I think if scripted TV is kind of like New York, it's like dense and on a grid and very organized. And you have a John Landgraf who's keeping track of how many scripted series there are.
Right.
Unscripted TV is a lot more like LA. It's just like sprawling clusters of neighborhoods with unique cultures. You have docs, you have reality, you have competition shows, and they all kind of operate a little bit differently. That's kind of how I feel like the unscripted market is. But there's the same kind of creative conservatism that's been happening on unscripted as there is on the scripted side. Again, a little bit more of a risk-averse market. People want big hits. They're defaulting to things that perennially work, like true crime. True crime always sells.
But that is true.
But with the success of shows like The Traitors over on Peacock or Squid Game, The Challenge on Netflix, you're starting to see a little bit perhaps of a taste for, hey, what are some new formats that could work and really break out? So really dug into that over in my story, went streamer by streamer because that's where all the growth is happening. Outside of basically the broadcasters, like Fox is kind of the only place that seems to be a strong buyer right now. So we really focused on the streamers in the story.
Yeah, that's true. And IP is infiltrating this even more so, it sounded like, than in the past as well.
Yes, although I was a little confused at first when I said IP. What does that mean in an unscripted world?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So define for the folks what exactly this means.
Yeah, so that could mean like a board game that gets translated to a game show, or as one agent put it, the Menendez brothers or John Bonet also kind of count as IP.
I guess
so
that's IP in that
setting
world.
kind of any squeamishness aside about calling famous murdered girls IP, this agent's point was basically it has to be, even true crime has to be based on known stories.
Not the unknown murder story you've never heard of before. So yeah, it's a great breakdown. Again, you go kind of buyer by buyer there to see what they're buying, who's buying most, and who's maybe not so much these days. So great read over at theankler.com. Finally, at the box office this weekend, yeah, I gotta say, 2025, you're kind of harshing the buzz here in the business. MLK Weekend had the smallest opening for a film since, I think, 1997 or something along those lines.
For a 3-day weekend, no less.
Yeah, for the totals going back, one of the lowest overall totals ever, I think, outside of COVID years. So that was not a great kickoff there here in January. And this weekend's new movie is the Wahlberg pick Flight Plan from Lionsgate, directed by Mel Gibson, which is tracking it.
Special envoy Mel Gibson, yes.
The special envoy, yes, of course, our new special envoy to Hollywood, Mel Gibson, tracking it around 10 million. So Neon has a new Soderbergh pick called Presence as well. But yeah, I don't know, guys. January, not quite off to the races so far, but I'll, of course, wrap up all the results Sunday night in the Wake Up, which you get as part of your Ankler subscription. Just sign up over at theankler.com. Pop in the old email address, super easy. You can also reach us here at the podcast anytime at podcast@theankler.com. And if you would, good old review or like this old podcast here. We've been up and running for quite a while. Could use some fresh reviews. Some formats have changed. Some talent has changed. And the reviews have not. So we could use honest feedback. We'd love to hear it. And again, email us anytime at the podcast. But if you would like and rate the podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, we would definitely appreciate it here at The Ankler. Elaine, always a pleasure. Special thanks to Ashley, Richard, and Katie for joining as well. And a big thanks to you all for listening. We'll see you next time.